Jim Davison is Regional Director of Make UK, the manufacturers organisation. Make UK helps businesses to meet their objectives and goals, empowering individuals and inspiring the next generation. Make UK are an amazing organisation that make up one of the B5. For those of you who aren't aware of what the B5 is, the B5 are the 5 leading associations that are leaned on to provide advice to the UK government. When the government say they've spoken to industry, what they mean is they've spoken to the B5. Jim's job is to talk to manufacturing companies of all shapes and sizes, and is here today to give you some insight on how businesses across the region are evolving and what impact robotics and automation are having across the industry. Please welcome to the stage, Jim.
Hi, it's really great to have the opportunity to share with you some of my thoughts, my observations, and some insight, I think, into some of the things that are stopping particularly small and medium-sized manufacturers from taking on board the opportunities that come from automation in its broadest context, and robotics as well. My name's Jim Davison. I started off my career as a production engineer, trained in mid-80s, and I remember vividly being told at that time, why on earth are you studying production engineering? Why aren't you doing electronics engineering? You won't have a career. Robots are going to just take over the world. Well, they haven't, and I am still enjoying a great career, and there's still lots of opportunities for robotics to be embedded in lots of different machines, or organisations. So the challenge, I think, is that whoever is deemed to be an expert at any given time, it is very, very difficult to forecast the future. I think there's lots of opportunity. Make UK, great introduction, thank you, Robot, represents thousands and thousands of manufacturers in the UK, from the large OEMs that we've seen lots of images of their types of operations, through the whole manufacturing supply chain to small companies. For us are typically sort of 50 employees and above. So a good cross-section across all types of industry. And one of the key things we do is every quarter survey those member companies just to really understand, looking forward for the next 3 months, what are the enablers, what are the opportunities, and what are the threats that you think you're facing right now. So looking at the trends, fundamentally, the outlook right now is bad, and I can't put it any softer than that. The kind of indicators that we're seeing are similar to those that we saw in the run-up to the economic crash in 2008. So there's serious external factors that are about to impact, I think, manufacturing in the UK. And we're still part of the EU, so we can't blame that all on Brexit. There are lots of other issues that are facing manufacturers. The China-US trade wars, for example. All of that is making the trading environment very, very uncertain. And the real challenge there is, we heard earlier, SMEs in particular are finding it tough to understand how can I invest in some of these emerging technologies. I don't feel particularly confident, and I don't know where to start, is the message. So the backdrop, I can't put it any more stronger, is difficult. However, I think some of the opportunities that were talked about earlier, Mike mentioned the fact that, there is a fundamental lack of manpower in the UK. We actually currently have pretty much full employment. So for manufacturing businesses to flourish, grow and expand, there isn't a massive pool of people to do that. So me being an optimist, I think actually the opportunity is to grab hold of some of these decisions to invest in automation and capital equipment, because you have to. You can't put it off. You can't employ a few more people to enable you to produce the output that you need now. And more importantly, how can you move that forward? My background, I spent 15 years working for EMI Music, and I joined that organisation in '87, and at that point, those of you that are old enough to remember, compact discs were really, really starting to take off. And I joined that organisation as a project engineer, and we were struggling to make 5,000 CDs every 24 hours. and we were buying equipment from all of the established machinery producers. Then we would try and integrate and introduce handling, and relatively quickly we recognised that our capability, our core competence, was making compact discs and not the equipment to actually produce them. So we went out and we would not buy bleeding edge equipment, but we would buy leading edge equipment. And what I mean by that is we didn't want the brand new state of the art thing that wasn't fully tested, but we wanted to buy equipment, including automation, that was proven. And then what we did was really, really, really optimize how we used it. And actually we were very, very good at making compact discs and designing a process to do that, which was actually very much built around the concepts of making cars, but we applied those tools and techniques to making compact discs. I ultimately closed that factory in 2002, and when I did, we were making 500,000 CDs every 24 hours. And ironically, we were still employed a very similar number of people to that when we were struggling to make 5,000. So it really, really echoes the point that Mike made. If you invest in the right plant and equipment and automation and all of the systems that wrap around that, and you're very good at what you make, actually you can transform a business. Why do you think we shut that factory down, although it was very, very productive, very good at what it did in 2002? Anyone guess? Exactly, yeah. That carrier was basically defunct. Already you were getting people like Napster that were offering music that you could download onto a device and listen to it. You know, my kids struggle now to understand, CD, Dad, what's that? Why would anyone ever want to buy that? Yeah, we've got thousands of those in the house. You never play them, Dad. It's all on my phone. So it just shows that, you know, yes, we invested in the best. We did replace our equipment very, very regularly. So I had to buy equipment that had a minimum of 18-month payback. But that meant that in 3 years, I was replacing that kit because it was already fully paid for, and I could buy the next generation that was better than the equipment that I'd been running 3 years before. So that was the attitude of me and my company, and the challenge for us is to get more and more organisations to do that. It's very easy to put off the decision to do something tomorrow or next month or next year, but actually the opportunity you really start to lose. Mike did a really good job of explaining and talking about some of the backdrop to, you know, some of the market conditions. So I'm not going to spend time on going through these. However, more than happy for everyone in the audience to have these slides, so you can have that as a context. But the real one I did want to look at just reinforces the point that was made about productivity. In 2008, if you look at the graphs, the UK was actually one of the most productive countries. And it was only after the financial crash that we have plateaued, and lots of the other G7 countries have continued to invest, and they've massively outstripped us. If we were continuing to improve productivity as we were in 2008, to this day, we would be 20% more productive. And that's just because companies changed their attitude to investment, and they stopped doing the right thing, which is investing in the technologies for tomorrow. Although I can understand why they did that. The availability of funds to, particularly for small and medium-sized firms, disappeared overnight. So banks just would not lend a small manufacturer money to invest in new equipment. So a lot of them have been building cash reserves. They're sat on lots of cash now, actually. They're just choosing potentially not to spend it. So that's why I really wanted to share that particular slide with you. So what's the way forward? You know, what does a manufacturing company look like? And I've been intrigued to have some of your feedback. You know, that is an activity that is carried out in lots of manufacturers. Manual, highly skilled, actually. So good welders are in short supply, and it's very difficult to do. So what are your thoughts? Is that something that could and should be deployed or, you know, using robotics for? We saw the car plants, and they're very good at utilising things like spot welding. But actually, I saw a firm yesterday in Kent that is a small metal fabrication business. They make a whole massive portfolio of different products. Some of them are sheds for bikes, so storage sheds for bikes and racks for bikes, external furniture for city centres, etc. They were very, very proud to tell me yesterday, we've just procured our first robotics welding kit. Brilliant to see, because they have very, very low production volume. So it's not that cliched car factory where you have thousands of cars passing down the production line every day. Very, very different. But as a business leader, he understood exactly which of his products would be going through that automated system, what the benefits were. The features that he described was how to get one of his or some of his team to program it. It's using things like a console that is very, very similar to a gaming controller. So a very simple way of programming this device. Very attractive to young people that game. A real opportunity for him to not only attract apprentices, young apprentices into his business, but also invest in them, get them trained, get them interested in running that particular robotics cell. So robotics, even for welding, even in lowish volumes, is an opportunity. What about this? That again is something you'll see in lots and lots of small and medium-sized manufacturers. Lots of people at workbenches doing very, very manual stuff. And that's the perception, small, medium-sized firms tend to look like that. What about that? Any opportunities for what we're talking about today? Yeah, absolutely. So they're inspecting. So how might you automate the inspection there? Perfect, yeah. Vision systems. Yeah, my compact disc factory, we were using them in the early 2000s. So that capability, that technology is far more widespread now, but also costs massively less. What else? So if we've automatically, inspected it, so we've done a visual inspection, what else could we do with that situation? Yeah, absolutely. The challenge for the people that tend to work in these organisations is they know their products very, very well. They know their operations. They don't necessarily see the opportunities that, within 2 seconds of looking at that with your fresh pairs of eyes, you've spotted and you've seen. So there's some of the barriers that small and medium-sized manufacturers face. What about this? That's a packaging machine that is putting special packaging on for Christmas release goods for an organisation there. What are your thoughts with that one? Yeah, absolutely. Pick and place. Yeah, there are so many opportunities out there. The challenge, I think, though, is the perception, and we saw at least 3 slides already that show big, dangerous robots that are well established in things like car plants and lots of other heavy industry applications, which is fantastic. But the perception is, yeah, those kind of organisations can do this. They've got the cash, they've got the ability to invest in this, and they've got the resources to be able to support that kind of technology. That is true, and they're well established, and they're very, very good at utilising that kind of kit. What I'm trying to encourage everyone in the room to think about is it doesn't all have to look like that. Modern robotics, we've heard some great stories already, can transform a business in a different way. Skills. As an industry, there are lots of people like me, they're mid-50s, getting towards the end of their career, and then you see a massive gulf, and then you'll start to see people in their early 20s again. And that graphically demonstrates as an industry the lack of investment that went into training and developing people for that period. And part of that's because of consolidation, so other factories closed and you were able to attract the people that were employed down the road. Those days are long gone, as I said earlier. Fundamentally, we have full employment. So encouraging young people to start a manufacturing career is not easy, and there are a lot of misconceptions out there about what a manufacturing career looks like. But actually, with the introduction of this technology and these automation and robotics, actually that is a really attractive thing for young people, because they can combine not only the knowledge of how to make things, how to design things, but also the digital disciplines that they're really into. So I see that as one of the key things that we can unblock within particularly small and medium-sized firms. And the technologies, a great example just now. Robotics have transformed what they can do, but also the cost base. In my compact disc plant, we had IBM pick-and-place robots. They were 100 grand a pop, and they were really, really difficult to program. So I had one guy in the whole factory that was able to program that machine effectively. And when it went wrong, if he wasn't on site, well, boy, did we feel it. And with this kind of technology, yeah, you can program it far more quickly. It's actually more flexible. It's a simpler interface. So there is one barrier that's disappeared. But skills is a key thing, and we do need to promote the fact that there will be lots of different exciting careers that will be able to, young people will be, anybody will be able to fulfill through a small and medium-sized manufacturing firm, utilising some of this new kit. So, leadership is one of the key things that I think is a potential, what's the word I'm looking for? Dragging force on manufacturing, small and medium-sized manufacturing, particularly the established organisations. You have to be a pretty brave business leader to sort of jump to understand and invest some of your capital into a technology you don't fully understand. So part of events like today that's really important is helping those business leaders understand what this is all about, what the future can look like, and more importantly, how they can apply that to their own organisations. Skills I've already talked about, so making sure that you work in partnership with organisations that actually can help you develop and acquire and develop those skills within your organisation. Financing automation, really interesting. There are companies that we're talking to now that are getting into equipment as a service, so you don't have to put the upfront investment to fund this. You can actually pay for it per month or per item utilised or moved, So, some very, very different disruptive concepts as to how organisations can actually embrace some of this stuff. And the other thing is making sure that we share best practice with companies that look like me. It's very interesting going to see the mini plant in Oxford, and that's an amazing manufacturing facility. But if I'm making a few hundred things that don't look anything like a mini car, it's actually really hard to relate to it and understand how I can apply some of these thoughts, concepts, and ideas to that manufacturing business. Share, open your doors. If you're deploying this kind of technology, then open your doors and help others see it. That was definitely the philosophy I had in my factory. I'd let other compact disc manufacturers in and look in quite detail at our factory, because I knew damn well if they stole some ideas from me today, by the time they'd actually reap the rewards of that, we would be so far down the road, they would be nowhere near catching us up. Don't be afraid of letting people into your factory, but equally, don't be dismissive of going to see other organisations, even if they don't make the same things as you, because guarantee one or two ideas that you take back to your organisation and exploit is an investment and a worthwhile activity. And it helps you to start to see some of the opportunities that you quickly saw in some of those slides. And the last thing I'm going to say is it's not all about high volume. You can be making one-offs or very low volume products with some degree of customization, and you can still deploy these capabilities. The challenge is to understand your value streams, understand your processes, and then work out where are the bottlenecks, how are we going to resolve some of those challenges that you face, and then is there a technology that can help us solve this problem better than doing it in a different way. So I hope that was of interest, of use. We're going to be here all evening, so if any of you want to come and say hi and talk about any of that in more detail, then please do. Thank you.